Good morning to all of you. Is the slide visible? Anyone please respond?
Yes, sir, it is.
Last class we have discussed about this EV, PV, etc., plant value, earned value, and this actual cost. We have discussed some formulas like CPI, SPI, and all other things. So please practice those things. Let's see if any doubt anybody has faced. You have to see that the slides I have already shared. It is, I think, chapter 9 of our project management book. Please have a look at this, and maybe some small examples, exercises you can practice in the examination. It will come like that. So, has anybody faced any problem? Let's see. So, okay, so now today we'll discuss something a little bit new topic of that same chapter 9. That is how to prioritize the monitoring activities. Then we'll see if a project is running late, how to get the project back to the target date. These two important things we'll see today. So today is a Sunday, we'll take only a few minutes and we'll complete this portion. So far we have assumed that all the different aspects of a project, they will receive equal treatment in terms of degree of monitoring applied. So while we are performing monitoring, while the monitoring is applied, we are thinking that we have assumed that all the aspects of the project, they are similar, and hence they should receive equal treatment. But that is not the case in real life. That is not the case in real practice. We have to focus on more. We have to give more attention to some of the particular types of activities. Let's see some examples. We might focus more on monitoring certain particular types of activities. For example, the activities lying on the critical path, we must have to give much more attention, because if you one day delay to those critical path activities, then the whole project will be delayed. Similarly, activities those have a free float 0, we must also pay them attention, so that if one activity is having free float 0, then what will happen? So subsequent activities will be delayed. Even if the whole project is not delayed, but subsequent activities may be delayed. So if those activities with free float, they are or those activities having free float 0, if they are delayed, then the later dependent activities are also delayed. So we have to pay them more attention. Similarly, the activities having or with less than a specified float, only suppose the threshold will take only 3 days. So activities which are having less than 3 days float, also we have to pay special attention, because immediately we do not know when the 2 days float will be immediately finished, due to one person coming late, or one computer is not available, one printer is not available. So within two days, suddenly it may be consumed. So then that becomes critical. So how to act? So we must pay more attention to the activities having the activities with less than a specified float, with less than a threshold float. Then activities having high risk, we must pay also more attention while monitoring those activities. Activating using critical resources, we are having only one supercomputer, and out of 10 activities, one is requiring that use of supercomputer. So we must have to pay more attention to that activity, because that requires a critical resource, and that resource is not in your hand. Say in an organization or in a university, in a college, in a university, only one HPC is there. So even if you are in different departments, so suppose your one of the module requires this use of HPC. Since that is not under your control, that is a critical resource, you have to depend on the central computing facility. So you must have to pay more attention to that. That should not be delayed, because if it is delayed, if you not meet to their schedule, then you have to wait again few more weeks till your turn comes. So activities requiring critical resources also should be paid more attention. Okay, so this whatever I have told, I have just explained in the later slides with some examples. Let's see quickly. So this I have already told you. You know that critical path activities are very much important. You must pay special attention to them, because Even if 1 day delayed to those critical path activities, the whole project will be delayed. Any delay in an activity on the critical path will certainly cause a delay in the completion date of the whole project. So the critical path activities are therefore likely to have very high priority for close monitoring. You should periodically monitor those critical path activities. Okay. Then activities with no pre-float. Please recall while discussing about CPM plot, I have told there are two types of floats. Many floats, but two we have discussed thoroughly. One is the pre-float and another is the total float. What is pre-float? At that time I have told pre-float means it is the amount of time that an activity may be delayed without affecting the subsequent activity. But in total float, what is happening? It is the amount of time that the whole project may be delayed. If some delay you will make to that activity, then the whole project will be delayed. Please mark the difference between pre-float and total float. In total float means if one activity gets delayed, if that activity is get delayed by 1 day more, then what will that the whole project will be delayed. But in pre-float means it is the amount of time that that particular activity may be delayed. Only that activity will be delayed and it will not affect any subsequent activities. There will be because this is some amount of extra space, what time is there, and others will not be delayed. So as I already told you that pre-float means it is the amount of time that an activity may be delayed without affecting any subsequent activity, and any delay or a delay in any activity with no pre-float, what will happen? A delay in activity with no pre-float will certainly delay at least the subsequent activities. It may not delay the whole project completion date, but some of the subsequent activities, some of the later activities, they will be delayed. So these subsequent delays, they can have serious effect on what? They can have serious effects on the resource scheduling. They can have serious effects on the resource scheduling. Because as a delay in a subsequent activity, it could mean that the resources for that particular activity may become unavailable before that activity is completed, because you have delayed that activity because it does not have pre-float. So now if you delete this thing, whatever resource it has consumed, it will not free it, it will not leave it. So how many days you will make it delay, it will not allow the resource to be used by any other activity. So other subsequent activities, now they will be getting delayed because this particular activity, it will detain the resource and it will not allow other subsequent activities to use that resource. So obviously the subsequent activities now they will be delayed. So these activities, they should also be given priority while monitoring the project. The next category is activities with less than a specified float. Less than a specified means some threshold float. Suppose you have put only say 3 days. Now if any, that is the what float you have accepted, okay, 3 days you have given to the activities. Now if any activity less than that threshold float, 1 day or 2 day like that, then what will happen? You do not know when that 1 day or 2 day will be consumed. And as soon as it is consumed, that extra period, what will happen? That activity will become non-critical activity. And if any 1 day delay, then obviously the whole project will be delayed. So if any activity has very little float, maybe a threshold float that you have to decide, then it might use up this float suddenly at any point of time before the regular activity monitoring brings the problem to the project manager's attention. So before it is detected by the project manager, while monitoring, before the project manager sees it, then what will happen? By that time it will consume the its available that little pre-float, and then it becomes critical, and it will if any further 1 day delay, that will automatically all the subsequent activities and the whole project will be delayed. So that's why it is a very common practice to monitor very closely those activities with less than a threshold float. And for example, that you can take say 1 week pre-float. So if it is less than 1 week pre-float, you have to also pay special attention while monitoring those activities. This I have already told you, high risk activities. You know that a set of high risk activities should have been identified as part of the initial risk profiling exercise. We have already discussed risk management. So always the set of high risk activities should have been identified much early. If you are using the POT, I have already told you, POT handles uncertainty, POT handles risks to a certain extent. If you are using the POT, we should designate as high risks to those activities that have a very high estimated duration variance. Please recall, while discussing POT, we have found out mean and variance, isn't it? And those formulas I have told, I think, that mean formula I have told, variance I think I have told B minus A by 6 something. So if you are using the POT, then we should designate the high risks to those priorities. Those have very high estimated duration variance. You found out variance and threshold, put a threshold. If the variance is greater than the threshold, say 10, it is greater than the threshold variance 10, then you say these are high risk activities and you should monitor them very cautiously. These activities will be given very close attention. They should be monitored very regularly because they are most likely to overrun or overspend. Why? Because these activities, they are most likely to overrun or overspend. The cost might be very high, or they may get delayed. That will lead the project that may lead the project to some more delay. The target date it may be shifted. And last one is activity using critical resources. I have already given the example. Let's see here. The activities can be very much critical. Why? Because they are very expensive. Some of the activities, they are very expensive. Just like the one example I have told, it requires a supercomputer or it requires a HPC. Similarly, we have known that as in the case of specialized contract programmers, you have to develop a program, and in your organization, good Java programmers are not there, your web programmers are not there, you have hired. So obviously they will charge you very high amount. So they cannot wait. You have to finish that activity according to their schedule. So you should give more attention to that, so that those specialized contract programmers, they should not sit idle. You have to finish the activity sufficient before, so that as soon as they come, they will stay few days, finish up that work, then they will go. So those activities, we call them as very critical activities, and because they are very expensive, and you should handle them. You know that medical practitioners, there are very specialized person, like say maybe neurosurgery, or again whatever you can see this specialized doctors. Their timing is very less. When a patient is referred to them, you have to follow to their schedule, because they are busy, they are moving to many organizations, many hospitals. So their charge is very high, and you should not put any activity which will keep those specialized programmers or specialized doctors waiting. That should not be done. Staff or other resources might be available only for a limited period, especially if they are controlled outside the project team. This I was saying the example, the specialized contract programmers or the very specialized doctors, they are what? They are available only for a very limited period. So, or you can see the getting a slot for the HPC or the getting the slot for a supercomputer, you will get very less time. So all your previous works must be finished, because they will not wait for you. So they require close monitoring. In any event, an activity that demands a critical resource requires a high level of monitoring. So you see, in any event, in any project, an activity that requires a critical resource like a HPC or a supercomputer or a specialized contract programmer, so they require a high level of monitoring. You should monitor them very regularly or very much consistently. Now we'll go to the second aspect, that is getting the project back to the target. If a project is running late, how can make it back to target? How can try to back it so that it can meet the target line? So almost any project will at one time or another be subject to delays and unexpected events. That you cannot stop. Those are uncertain, obviously. Any project you may take, that will at one time or another time, they will be subject to some delays or some unexpected events, like the what employee has left in between, the computer that you are in that is crashed, those kind of things may happen. So one of the tasks of the project manager is to recognize when this kind of thing is happening. When it is very much uncertain. You cannot say when the people, the manpower, they will leave, or when the computer will break down, or when the power will go. You cannot say. So, but still you have to predict. One of the tasks of the project manager is to recognize when this kind of thing is happening, or if possible, when they are likely to happen. And with the minimum delay and disruption to the project team, you have to attempt to mitigate the effects of the problem. As a project manager, those things you cannot stop, those uncertainties will happen. And as the project manager, your job is to mitigate, to contain the effects of this problem with minimum delay and disruption to the project team. That's what about how to mitigate those types of risks. We have already seen how to mitigate the risks in the risk handle or risk management chapter. In most cases, the project manager, what he tries, at least he tries to ensure that the scheduled project and date remains unaffected. In between, something may happen. In between, some project, some activity might delay. In between, some computer is not working. But finally, his objective is the project should meet to the target dates. So he tries to ensure that the scheduled project and the scheduled date, the target date, they remain unaffected. So how this can be done? This can be done by shortening the remaining activity durations, or shortening the overall duration of the remaining project. So the whole project you have seen, what you have to do? So suppose your project consists of 10 activities, you have completed 3 activities. While coming to the 4th activity, there is some problem. Either some employee left, or the computer has breakdown or something. Then how you can, as the project manager, you can meet the target dates. So this can be done by shortening the remaining activity duration. So remaining, so 3 are already completed. You are in 4th. Now the problem came. So another 6 activities are there. What you have to do? You should try to shorten those, the durations of those remaining 6 activities. Or what you can do? You can shorten the overall duration of the remaining project. So either you can reduce the activity, the durations of each of the remaining activities, or the overall duration of the remaining project can be shortened, can be reduced, so that the project can meet the original target date. So, but this thing is not easy, that shortening the remaining activity durations or shortening the overall duration of the remaining project is not so easy, not always possible. This might not always be the most appropriate response to disruptions to a plan, may not be also achievable sometimes. Let's say some example. I have already told you, whenever you are trying to meet the target dates. Now, you should not try to give more time or adjusting something to the non-critical activities. You should try to see the critical activities, how they can meet the time, or we'll see some of the remedies here. So there is very little point, or almost there is no point in spending considerable amount in overtime payments in order to speed up the project. Always you cannot say that the project is delayed, I will put some more money, I will hire some more manpower, and I will try to complete. Always this is not possible, or there is no point in spending more amount of money in overtime payments in order to speed up the project. Rather, because you see, if the customer is not overly concerned with the delivery date, so for the client, he is not worried about the concerned delivery date, the target date. Then no point in hiring more manpower and finish up this. You may take some extra time to complete it. And similarly, when there is no other valuable work for the team members, once this project is completed. So after this project is completed, immediately you don't have any other project, or the employee will not be immediately assigned to another project. So then there is no point in hiring more manpower for this project and complete it before the deadline. It can be little bit stressed. Okay. There are two main strategies to consider when drawing up plans to bring a project back on target. How to bring a project back onto target? There are two strategies people use. One is shortening the critical path. Try to reduce the length of the critical path, the duration of the critical path, because we have known critical path in the past having the longest duration. And second one, when this is not possible, try to alter the activity precedence requirements. The precedence requirements you have known, like predecessor, successors. A depends on B, B depends on C, like this. These are the precedence requirements. You try to alter the activity precedence requirements. You try to change some of the activity precedence requirements. Then probably you will be success in getting the project back on target. We'll see the first approach now. Shorten the critical path. You know, the overall duration of a project is determined by what? The overall duration of a project is determined by the current critical path. So now, if you will just speed up the non-critical path, will there be an improvement? No, you cannot meet the target dates. So speeding up the non-critical path activities, it will not bring forward a project completion date. So if you are trying to speed up the non-critical activities, then it will not help you in bringing forward a project completion date. Okay. The overall duration of a project is determined, you know, by the current critical path. So by speeding up the non-critical path activities, it will not help anyway in bringing forward a project completion date. We'll see in what are the ways we can improve we can try to meet the completion date. So all will see under this category, shorten the critical path. There are several ways in which this might be done. Let's see. Number one, if you are observing that your project is getting delayed, so you can add more manpower, adding resources, especially particularly staff members. Number two, increase use of the current resources, because no manpower is available or very poor they are in programming. What you do, increase use of current resources. So how many current resources you are having, how many current manpower you are having, you increase the use, maybe through overtime or maybe through Saturday, Sunday or so. Then reallocate staff to critical activities. You have already known there are two major types of activities, critical activities and non-critical activities. If the critical activities are getting delayed, what you can do, you know, non-critical activities, they are having some extra time. You try to migrate, you try to transfer some of the staff members from the non-critical activities to the critical activities. Another is reduce scope. Now you see, anyway, you cannot complete or you cannot achieve all the scopes mentioned in the MOU. What you can do, you can try to reduce the scope. In the MOU, 15 functionalities are there. Now you see already for 1 year, 6 months passed, but we have not completed 5. So obviously I have to reduce the scope. Out of say 15, I can say that okay, at best I can complete 10. Those are important, we can complete. Rest 5, it's very difficult to complete. Another is reduce quality. You may, when nothing is possible, you might have to try to reduce the quality, but the client has to agree with that, because when there is a reduction in the quality, almost no people will accept it. But this is one of the alternative that you can follow to bring the project target on back. We'll see the first. So by such means we can attempt to shorten the time scale. So by using all those all these ways that we have discussed, by following all these ways, okay, we can bring the project back. By such means we can attempt to shorten, to reduce the time scale for critical activities until such times we have brought the project back, until such times as either we have brought the project back to the schedule or further efforts prove unproductive or not cost effective. So either when we got success, that means the project is now, it is in time, we can meet the schedule, then we can stop. Otherwise, these activities, these ways can be followed till further efforts prove unproductive or not cost effective. Other whatever, how many techniques, how many methods you may use, but they are just unproductive, they are not cost effective, so you may leave all those options. Remember, however, that shortening a critical path often causes some other path or paths to become critical. This thing I have already told you while discussing CPM method. So while you are trying to reduce the critical path, while you are shortening a critical path, it might happen that it may cause that another path which was non-critical at that time, now it has become critical because you are adjusting the times. So this latest start time, earliest start time, latest finish time, earliest finish time, you are trying to reduce, you are trying to manipulate those times. So this may lead to some other paths become critical. So now let's see the first category, adding resources, very easy, especially staff members. So exerting staff to work harder might have some effect. If you always praise your employees work hard, then that might have some effect, maybe negative effect. So that's why it is better to follow a more positive form of action, such as you may increase the resources available for some critical activity. So some of the resources, you can increase the resources available for some critical activity. Okay, you can increase the resources available for some critical activity. Let us take an example. And you know, in requirement analysis, there's a step called as fact finding or fact gathering techniques, isn't it? Or data collection techniques. For example, this activity, particular activity, fact finding or data collection activity, it can be speeded up. How? By allocating an additional analyst to interview users. You know the different data collection methods. In any book you see, like questionnaire, interviews, on-site observation, record review, going to new libraries or visit to similar types of organizations. These are different ways for data collection. So that comes in software requirement specification phase. So if you want to speed up the fact finding activity, what you can do, you can hire one more additional analyst to interview the users, because in your client there are thousands of end users, and if you want to interview all of them, only one analyst is there, it will take some 10 days. What you can do, you can put another analyst, you can hire another analyst who can also interview, so that 500 person will be interviewed by one and 500 by another one. So it can save some time. But it is very much unlikely that coding up a small module would be certain by allocating an additional programmer. See, interviewing you can easily put one more analyst and do, or database design you can put one more designer and you can share the work. But if you are having a small module to code, you should not give to two programmers to write small portion for some portion to this programmer, another portion to the other programmer. You should not do. Let's see what is the reason. Indeed, it might be counterproductive. So instead of becoming advantageous, it might be counterproductive because of the additional time needed for organizing and allocating tasks and communicating between the two programmers. They have to communicate. So this process will require some additional time. The additional time needed for organizing and allocating the tasks and communicating among the programmers. So when you are having a small module to be coded, don't share it with or don't do it by hiring another additional programmer. This will further make delay this will make further delay for that activity. Okay. No. While adding more staff may be able to speed up progress, this would be at an additional cost, isn't it? Of course, when you will put more staff members to do this job to speed up the progress, you have to put additional cost. Yesterday you have discussed EV and SB. So in terms of EV, what we can say, how we can say in EV, the terms negative schedule and isn't it in EV terms or EV terminology? Negative schedule variance means, what does it mean? It may be reduced. It may be reduced, but at the price of what? The schedule, the time may be reduced, but at the price of increasing a negative cost variance, the cost will become very high. Of course, if there is always a trade-off between this completion time and cost. If you want to finish it more early, you have to bring more manpower. As a result, the schedule variance will be negative, which indicates that the project it overruns. The cost is much more high. The cost increases. The cost is much more high than the initial planned one. Increase use of current resources. Again, this is easy. So the resource here, the resource levels can be increased by making them available for a longer period. So what are the existing water resources? You can increase their utilization time. For example, the staff might be asked to work overtime for the duration of an activity, and computing resources might be made available at times, because you know that in some of the institutions, their computing facility will stop at 5 o'clock. But if there is some urgent work, you have to meet the target, you open it up to 10 o'clock, night 10 o'clock. So in that way also, you can meet the time. So we are in this case, we are increasing the use of current resources. Thus, the staff might be asked to work overtime for the duration of an activity, or they may work on Saturdays, Sundays, and other holidays, and the computing resources might be made also available at times, that means beyond the stipulated times, such as evenings and weekends, when they might otherwise be inaccessible. In other days, they are inaccessible. Now, when an important project is coming and the target date is appearing soon, so you can open those computing facilities to be available in evenings and weekends. Then reallocate staff to critical activities. You try to reallocate, migrate, transfer the staff members from non-critical activities to critical activities. The project manager might consider allocating more efficient staff to activities on the critical path. Bringing from where? Bringing from the non-critical activities, or he may swap, or swapping the resources between critical and non-critical activities. When a project is actually executed, the critical path may change, that I have already told you. When you have planned something, but when actually the project is executed, the critical path may change, as the actual durations of activities will vary from the original estimate, and the staff allocations may be adjusted to reflect this. So since you have planned something, but during actual execution of the project, the activities, the durations of the activities might change. So the critical path may change, some other path may become the critical path. Okay. Then reduce scope. This I have already told you, that the amount of work to be done could be reduced by reducing the scope of the functionality to be delivered. So you reduce the scope of the functionalities. Suppose in the MOU you have written 10 functionalities, but it is now not possible. After starting your work, you have seen, we can say that, okay, we can complete the most important 10 functionalities. Those little bit not so important, like this look and feel or GUI kind of things, okay, that may be skipped. So in this way, you can also meet the target dates. The amount of work to be done could be reduced by reducing the scope of the functionality to be delivered. You can take the example of library information system, which are the most important you have to do, like issue, return, search, etc. But you know, there's another option, reserve. Reserve means what? If there is only one book, only a faculty can take it. So a faculty, they are provided with another option, reserve. So whenever they want, they can reserve a book. So even if that, because that book, only one book that is taken by a student, so the faculty wants that, so he will make it reserved, so that when the student returns it, immediately it will be given to that faculty without giving to another student. So that is what we can say, that functionality you can say little less important. So if you do not have sufficient time, you can defer that functionality. You can reduce the scope by dropping that functionality, reserve book in the library information system. The client may prefer to have a subset of promised features on time. The client has given you 1 year. So if in 1 year all the functionality is not possible to be developed, then what you can do? You can only develop the most important ones. The clients may prefer to have a subset of the promised features on time. What are the important features? He want to get it within time 1 year, instead of getting all those functionalities which may make delay by another 6 months. He may not wait. The client may prefer to have a subset of the promised features on time, especially if they are the most useful ones, most important ones. rather than have the delivery of the whole application delayed by another 2 months, 6 months, or 8 months. He will not wait. Rather, he will prefer to get a subset of the promised or important features on time before the scheduled date, before the what we can say scheduled period. Okay, so that is another method. By reducing scope of the work, you can also bring your project back. You can bring the project back to the target. And this is the worst option, reduce quality. Some quality related activities such as system testing, etc. could be curtailed. Because there are different levels of system testing, unit testing, then integration and integration testing, then system testing, regression testing. So if you don't have time, so what you can do, you just perform only unit testing and integration testing. You can drop the system testing. So, but this would probably lead to more corrective work having to be done to the live system once it has been implemented. But when it has implemented, so you have to do, it may lead to more corrective work having to be done to the live systems once it has been implemented. Since you have not performed system testing, so you have to give some more time. Once it has implemented, again you have to check, you have to give some more time for testing the project. So this may take some more time, but in this way, if you drop initially system testing, some time you can save, and but at the cost of quality, the quality may be reduced. In this way also you can bring the project back onto target. And this one is reconsider the precedence requirements. By this also you can bring the project back. If attempting to certain critical activities proves insufficient, okay, you have tried to reduce the critical activities. You have already tried to reduce the duration of the critical activities, but it is proven to be insufficient. If attempting to certain critical activities proves to be insufficient, what is the next step? The next step is to consider the constraints by which some activities have to be deferred pending the completion of others. So what you can do next, you can consider, you can examine the constraints by which some activities they have to be deferred pending completion of others. Like ABC, they are waiting only when D will be completed, then only ABC can be started. So ABC are there, they are waiting now because D is not completed, and there is a precedence relationship among them. That means after D is completed, only ABC can be started, like that. You have to examine those constraints, and if possible, we should try to overcome these constraints. We should try to simplify the constraints. The original project network would most probably have been drawn up assuming ideal conditions and normal working practices, while you have drawn the activity network assuming that all conditions are ideal, assuming that we have followed normal working practices. We have developed the activity network, but actually in the real field that is not happening. So we have to review the conditions, the constraints and the practices, and we have to redraw the project network. It might be that to avoid the project delivering late, it is now worth questioning whether as yet unstarted activities really do have to wait the completion of others. So now, since our delivery date is getting nearer, we have to reconsider, we have to re-examine those constraints, whether really the ABC should wait till D is completed, or there is some other means so that we can parallelly start ABC even if D is not completed. We have to think of this so that probably we can avoid the late in delivering the product. It might in a particular organization be normal to complete system testing before commencing user training, isn't it? Normally what you do, first complete system testing so that all the testings are now over. Integration, unit testing, integration testing and system testing, then you provide user training. But user training will sometimes take some time. That is there in the time schedule. So in order to now there is a dependency here. First complete system testing, then provide user training. But since you are getting late, what you can do, this is a very good example, what you can do in order to avoid late completion of a project, it might however be considered to accept to alter the normal practice and start training earlier. We can start training earlier because we have already completed the unit testing and integration testing. The modules are working. So now what we can do, and we know that this system testing will take a very huge amount of time. So in order to avoid a late completion of a project, we can alter the normal practice, and we can start the training fast, even if this system testing is not started. So wherever required, you think of, you reconsider the precedence requirements, and you can change the practice. You can alter the practices. You can yes, you can alter the practices. Okay. One way to overcome the precedence constraints is to subdivide an activity into a component that can start immediately and one that is still constrained as before. Suppose A has to be completed first, then only B can start. So now you are getting some delays actually, because A is not able to be completed, either the manpower he is left, or that computer is not available, like that. So one way to overcome the precedence constraints is that to subdivide an activity into a component that can start immediately and one that is still constrained as before. As I was saying, that A depends on B, but B is not able to completed now. What you do, you divide A into two parts, like A1 and A2, where the dependency part you make it A2, so that now B and A1 can non-parallelly. Only when B will be completed, then A2 will be first started. So at least some part can be done in parallelly. So let's take a simple example that a user handbook can be drawn up in a draft form from the system specification and then be revised later to take account of subsequent changes. We want to prepare a user handbook, user manual, and normally we prepare the user requirement, user manual from where, after SRS document is over. And then after this also after the coding is over, so that how the people can use. So normally we prepare the user manual after coding and testing is they are over. But if you are running out of time, what you can do, we can look at the SRS document and prepare a draft form of the handbook, and that we can because that will take also a huge amount of time to prepare the draft manual, draft user manual. And when this coding and unit testing is they will be over, we can make minor changes and then we can make this draft manual final. So in this way, wherever required, you try to divide the activity into two parts, so where one can be started before the other, or before this those who are related, before another activity which is related, before that is completed, it can be started, and another can be waited after the required activity is completed, then that can be started. If we decide to alter the precedence requirements in such a way, of course the quality might be compromised. That might happen. We have to look at, we have to little bit think, and it may be required to make a consensus decision to compromise the quality wherever needed. So if in some cases quality will be little bit reduced, you have to take approval, you have to take consensus decision among the other stakeholders, and you have to get approval from your top boss. It is equally also important to assess the degree to which changes in work practices increase risks. So it is also very much important to assess the degree to which changes in work practices increase risks. If you are making some changes, it may increase some risks. So up to what degree, up to what extent you can make the changes, you have to assess. For example, it is possible to start coding a module before its design has been completed, isn't it? What the students normally do. Normal practice says that you should first do the SRS document, then coding, then then design, then coding, then testing, etc. But we are giving, when we are giving assignments to UG and PG students, what do? They start backward. They start from coding, then the teacher will scold, then they will do the design, submit the DFD and the UML diagrams, then they find out the SRS document, which is a very, very wrong approach. What people they are doing. And this, you see, what is the problem with this? If you are going in the reverse direction, if you are changing the work practices, it will increase the risks. How? Let's see. Now, if you have start coding before design, then what will happen? It would normally, however, be considered foolhardy to do so. Why? Why it is wrong? Because it may lead to compromising the quality. Quality may be definitely reduced, and most important thing is that it may increase the risk of having to redo some of the coding activities once the final design had been completed, and thus it will delay the project further. you have started fast coding, but when the design is over, your coding may not match to the design because there are several other features or there might be some other sequences. What you have to do, again, some of the portions you have to redo. You have to write the code again. You have to rewrite the code again. So what you have already wanted, your project will be much early completed. Since you have done coding, now it will be further delayed because you have to redo some portion or you have to redo whole coding again. This will further make delay. This will further delay the completion of the project. So there is heavy risks involved there. So that's why. So it is equally important to assess the degree to which the changes in the normal work practices they can be applied. It is equally important to assess the degree to which the changes in work practices increase the risk. Okay. So let's summarize what strategies we have discussed, how how we can get back on track. Let's see the summary. Getting back on track, the options in Nordcell, are given below. First, you try to renegotiate the deadline. If you are getting delayed, try to renegotiate the deadline. Discuss with your client. If he agreed, he gives you another 1 month or 2 months or say 5 months, then that is possible. So renegotiate the deadline, maybe with the different stakeholders, particularly with the client. This is the first step. Now, if not possible, then try to reduce the critical path. For example, you may advise your employees to work overtime. You can reallocate staff from less pressing work, I mean non-critical activities to critical activities, or you can hire more staff. Another option I have already told you, reduce the scope of the work. Where it is not applicable, you may follow other alternatives. The worst alternative is reduce the quality. And finally, when these things cannot be applicable, then you have to reconsider the activity dependencies, overlap the activities. Okay, you try to overlap the activities so that the start of one activity does not have to wait for completion of another. So that's why I say A, you have divided into A1 and A2. Since A is dependent on B, but you have divided A into two things, A1 and A2. And A1 is not dependent on B. So A1 and B can run parallelly, and only when B will be over, then only A2 can be started. That's a good approach. Reconsider the activity dependencies. Overlap the activities so that the start of one activity does not have to wait for completion of another activity. Another approach is you can split the larger activities, bigger activities into smaller activities. Split the activities. So in this way, getting back on track is possible. These are the options in Nordcell for getting back the project on track. Okay. So these are the ways which can be used for getting back on track. So we have discussed today the priorities that might be applied while monitoring different activities. We have also discussed how to get the project back to target. Several methods we have seen here. So this is a quite easy topic. You can read yourself. This thing we have taken from the number 1 reference, that is the software project management book, chapter 9. Okay. Okay. So this is all about this how to monitor the how to prioritize the how to prioritize the monitoring and how to get the project back onto target. All right. So, all right. So up to this portion after cost scheduling, we have seen this little bit easy portion. This is this how to prioritize the monitoring activities and how to get the project back onto target. Okay, please read chapter 9 of the software project management book. Thank you very much. Now, if any doubt, we'll take up either from last class doubt or to today's class. You can ask.